So you spread a lot of positivity through your Instagram.
Try to.
Yeah, and you released a book last year called The Keys.
Yeah. That was just a little project that me and my friend Anastasia did. She's awesome. Big ups to Anna. Fucking love her. But yeah, we just, I don't know, we'd gone through a lot both personally in the space of about a year, like a lot. And we both just decided to try and share what we thought we'd learn, because I know that at the time when I was going through a lot of stuff and I was really, really anxious and I was really, really like upset, and I just wish that I'd had that advice and that information that I had now, that I now have. So I just sort of wanted to, just through whatever platform, give that to people, because I think there's a lot of information out there, and the fact that, I mean, the internet's brilliant for it, because it's literally the rate at which we can exchange information now is just insane. But at the same time, like, I feel like kids necessarily weren't going to sit and Google that sort of stuff. They're not going to sit and look for like mindfulness. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know what it was. Like, that's the other weird thing. When I went through all that stuff at that point in my life, that just came out of nowhere, all this sort of stuff, and it just spiraled. Anyway, so we decided to make this little book because I'd met a lot of people in that year as well who shared very, very similar outlooks and interests as me and Anna, and they'd given me really, really good advice. I'd met one person in particular who, on Warped Tour, and he's a guy called Pralada, and he's beautiful, beautiful person, and he shared some wisdom, I don't know what you want to call it, with me that just resonated on such a level that I was like, I need to tell people about this. It's like, you know when like really, really religious people like to spread the good word, they need to do that. Like, I literally at first felt like that, and I was just like, what the fuck, why doesn't everyone know this? Like, you can be happy, you can control your own happiness. Like, why are we all suppressing ourselves? Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't make any sense to me. So at first kind of was like, right, we've got to do this, we've got to make something, I've just got to do something. And then me and Anna were like, why don't we just make a little zine, like literally a little zine. We're like, yeah, okay, cool. And then we started putting it together, and the people that got involved were just such awesome people, and they had such good advice and such beautiful words to share that we were just like, we need to make something bigger than this. So it ended up being like a hybrid. It was like not quite a zine, but not quite a book. It was just like a little sketchbooky, notebooky thing. So we did that. And we decided to give all the profits to Be Mindful, which is like an organisation that we just found, because we didn't want to do it for our own gain. I think that when you do these sorts of things, or like make these sort of self-help books, whatever you want to call it, and then it's solely for your own profit, people can kind of criticise that a little bit, which makes sense, because it's like, if you're sharing the love, why would you not? And we really needed the money, so it was like, obviously we paid ourselves, like, covered all our costs and stuff, do all that sort of stuff, but we were like, fuck it, we don't need it for anything. So we found this charity called Be Mindful, which was a registered like charity by the Mental Health Foundation, and it's like a course that offers mindfulness as an alternative to like antidepressants and stuff like that, which personally did not work for me, and I don't take anything like medication wise, so I didn't really want to fund that. But it's like, mental health's important, and I think it gets looked over a lot, and we wanted to just give a bit of love into that. So we did it for that. Sold way more than we anticipated, like way more. So that was amazing. Since then, and from the response that we got from that, and from the kids who wrote letters and stuff like that, and the stuff that I read, I was just like, obviously from when we brought out The Key to now, again, I feel like we've made another leap. And I know I feel like I know more now. And it's not ever a case of knowing more than everybody else and then being like, oh, I know all this, I know all these secrets, and I just want to keep them. It's like, that's not how it works. Like, it's just information out there, and don't make me or Anna or anybody else who's contributed any more intelligent than anybody else who's reading these books. But it's just things that you've got to share. Do you know what I mean? It's literally share the love. Like, if you've got all this love inside you, and you've got all this information, all this advice, and all this. It's literally a different way of seeing things, and if you can open people's eyes to that, why would you not?
It makes the whole world a better place for you to live in as well.
So. It's just stupid. It's like, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to spread that. So we just wanted to try and do that, and we're bringing out a new one, hopefully like next month. We're finishing it this weekend, actually. She's coming over this weekend, and we're going to try and put it all together. But It's a lot deeper than the last one in terms of, I think the first book was great, but it was very much like PMA, like positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
But with that comes a lot of, and also like a negative side, because a lot of people can choose to like, oh well, if I could just positive think, then my life will all fall into place, and I can just positive think everything into existence, and that's not how it works.
No.
Like, you actually have to confront some negative things sometimes, and you have to process them and deal with them in order to grow more. And so it's a case of not necessarily like dwelling on negative things, but acknowledging that they exist, and it's called the balance for that reason. That it's the yin and the yang, you know what I mean? It's the balance. There is no good without the bad, and there's no bad without the good, but it's all about balance, and it's all about dealing with things in a way that'll benefit you rather than hinder your progress.
Well, you're a prime example of that, going through that dodgy time where you had to confront things.
It's not that bad, and I don't want to put it in, I mean, sit here and be like, oh, I had the worst time ever, and because people have it so much worse, but it's all relative.
Yeah.
And it's all, that's the other thing, like when people, like, whether you're getting bullied or there's something much, much darker than that going on, I'm not saying everybody's problems are the same, and it's all on different levels and in varying degrees, but the point is that everybody has got shit. And instead of trying to just sugarcoat all this bullshit all the time, and why don't we actually just try and strip down them layers of bullshit and expose what's underneath, which is your true self.
Yeah.
So I think that's the important thing of like, so stop pretending, delve deeper. It might be a bit hard at first, but then it gets so much better.
Be worth it.
Yeah, way worth it. I mean, you know what I mean? It's a constant, it's a work in progress.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And you're gonna, trying to not use like words and make it sound too stupid, but I once read this thing that was like, in coming to consciousness, you're bound to hit walls. Because it is, you're progressing at a rate that is, you're bound to come across things, and you're bound to face old insecurities and stuff like that you've got to let go, and old behavioural patterns that you need to drop in order to get any further, in order to progress. So I think that's an important thing. It's like, on this path, or whatever you want to call it, it's not a pursuit of happiness, it's about being happy now. Regardless of the situation, regardless of what environment you're in, if you're content on a deeper level with yourself, then everything else will be fine, it'll be bearable, do you know what I mean? And you'll be alright.
You've made me feel better. I need to find that.
Yeah, good. No, I'm not there yet, but I'm definitely a hell of, you know what I mean? I'm a hell of a lot happier and a hell of a lot just more comfortable with myself than I ever was before.
I know people will look at you and think, God, she's got her head screwed on, she's in a great place, etc. But do you have difficulty still, like some days where you are jealous of someone, or some days where you're...
It's a lifelong thing, I think, like, honestly. I mean, I don't know, because I mean, obviously there's probably some monks who like reach enlightenment, whatever, they can talk about all this stuff, but I honestly think like it's all about just discovering, it's stripping away all the bullshit that we've built up our entire lives, because basically from the moment you're born, you're told things, and you know, like in school when you're led to believe that there's not enough for everybody to go around, and that you have to put other people's feelings before your own, and all these sorts of things, and it's all shit. And then it builds up and it builds up, and you believe these things about yourself, and you develop these insecurities, and you develop like behavioural patterns, and you get jealous, and you feel guilty, and it's because when you first experience these emotions, like the first time you ever feel guilt or like anger or like any of these things, they feel so horrible that you either want to push it away or you want to suppress it, but you don't want to feel it.
No.
Because it sucks. But if you actually sit in the, like, you know, if you're feeling jealous or like anything like that, you sit in the jealousy or in the sadness or whatever and really acknowledge it and really study it for what it is, then most of the time you can acknowledge how ridiculous it is and how there's nothing behind it, do you know what I mean? And then there's nothing to confront anymore, because you can't hold on to an emotion attached to something that's not real. So you can, like, I'm not very good at pointing to it. I'm better at writing it down, but I think that once you acknowledge these things, it's a lot easier to let them go. Most people don't want to face them. But you have to sometimes.
I find that guilt is one actually that my friends and I feel a lot. Say if we decide to do a decision that will make us happy, we feel guilty about that and how it affects other people. And
I had that though, like 100%. Like when I had that weird week and a lot of stuff changed. It was like I felt incredibly guilty. The fact that I was like leaving my friends who had been so supportive of me and had taught me to tattoo and done all these things, and then there was like a bunch of other stuff as well aside of that with other people, and you do feel guilty, but once you sit in that guilt and you look into it and you realise that, well, okay, so if I stayed with someone, or if I stayed in this job or whatever else, I'm not. It's not being a good person by doing that to them, because you're not even lying to yourself. You're lying to them. You're lying to. I'd be lying to them in that I were happy and working that job, which I wasn't anymore, and I wasn't content anymore. So it's just like, what's the point in prolonging anything?
Yeah.
Like, you're literally doing everybody a favour in the long run if you are just honest.
Nip it in the bud.
Yeah, it's just, don't drag anything out for any longer than it needs to be, and it's literally, honesty is the best policy in terms of just for yourself and for everybody else. And say it might hurt at first. People are human. We're going to feel emotions. Like it's natural, but at the same time, like, what is the point in adding any unnecessary stress onto what already is like life is pretty hectic? Do you know what I mean? What's the point in adding any more pressure onto yourself or anybody else on top of that? Just be honest and deal with things as they come.
And hopefully the friends and people who love you that will understand.
Oh,
and
And I mean, everybody does in the end. Everybody turns around and everybody will realise that you can draw similarities to yourself and other people. Like, whether you see people... So we cannot criticise anyone, because the chances are we've probably all done something very similar in our lives. Like, you know, if someone's been a bitch to you, and it's like you're so mad and you're so angry at them for being that horrible about you and so misinformed or so cruel, and then you sit and think about it, it's like, oh well, actually I probably said something like that about someone at some point in my life. And it's about admitting fault for things, because we are all at fault at some point in our lives. We'll all have done something that we're not too proud of, and it's about just, I think, holding your hands up and accepting fault and accepting blame so you can move forward. But most people never want to do that, because nobody wants to admit that they are responsible for their own happiness and that they're responsible for their own actions. But we are.
It's quite scary when you put it like that,
isn't it? It's really scary, because it is. And I mean, we are responsible for ourselves, but no one really wants to admit that, because then that would mean that you are in charge of your own happiness, and we like to blame situations and everything else on that, but it's not. It's something that's a lot deeper, that's inside you, I think.
It's quite liberating at the same time, even though it's scary.
That was that week. I say it was like a really hard week, but it was also the most freeing, free like I've ever felt, because it was just like a shedding. It was just like I just shed a load of bullshit, and it felt great.
I did one of those, and I just booked a ticket to LA and went on my own on a little holiday, and it just, the independence and everything feels so great.
100%. And being somewhere as well like that, it's out your comfort zone, and it's beautiful. I went to Mexico straight after that. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to Mexico.
It's our version of getting a new haircut, isn't it?
Yeah, literally, just like get out of the little bubble that you're in, and then you realise how insignificant everything is, and how little all these stupid little trivial things actually matter. And when you see things on a grander scale, and you see people, I know not a lot of people, not everybody wants to do it, which is fine, but I do find, for me personally, travel is quite important, because it puts things back into perspective. When you start getting too wrapped up in your own little bubble again, and thinking that it all really, everything matters way too much, and like how many Instagram followers you've got, or like anything like that, it's all bullshit. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's like, it's great that there's that many people that want to, but at the end of the day, you've got you, and that's it. So if you're not comfortable with yourself, by yourself, then you're never going to be comfortable with anybody else.
Yeah, when you're old and you're with your lover, and you're not going to think, oh, I had 500,000 followers. You're going to be like, I travelled the world, I saw this, I experienced that.
Exactly. And people get too hung up on the little things. I mean, I used to be really, really bad just like with my appearance, and like with just literally the way I look, like get a spot or whatever, and I'd be like, I'm not going out the fucking house, feel disgusting, like
we talked about
self,
earlier with
the hair, it's like just that self, like I don't know, like that self-loathing almost, where it's like you revel in it. I used to revel in it. I used to like, I didn't need to feel that bad, but I did, and I'd like pull myself down and be like, oh, I'm ugly, I'm blah blah blah, and you do these things, and then people will tell you it, and then it reinforces that, and it's horrible. It doesn't fucking matter. It's what is this anyway? Do you know what I mean? It's just a vessel. It's not like it's permanent. You know what I mean?
That's depressing, isn't it? It's going to be withered.
We're going to wither anyway, so you may as well just stop worrying about all these things.
Exactly.
It's not important.